Welcome to another slow, heavy breath of history. This is not a story of glory or gods or gold. It is not about pharaohs or forgotten treasures. This is about dust and hunger and the long, slow ache of existence beneath the sun. If you're here to sleep, let your eyelids grow heavy. If you're here to learn, let the silence teach you more than words. Either way, let this be a quiet place, where no one survives, but everything continues. Now, close your eyes or leave them open, and if your hands are free, maybe leave a like, maybe subscribe, so that this little corner of quiet keeps breathing. And now, let's begin. The sand gets in your teeth, even when your mouth is closed, even when you haven't spoken since last night. It finds you. The sand is not an enemy. It is the air. It is the floor. It is the silence that grinds between every word ever carved in stone. You wake in darkness, not because you're ready, because the man beside you stirs. His elbow brushes your ribs. He mutters a curse in his sleep, or maybe a prayer. The two sound the same when spoken into sweat. You sit up slowly. Your blanket is damp. Not from rain. There is no rain, but from breath and skin and the slow dripping of the roof's own exhaustion. Your fingers find your stylus before your eyes find the sky. You always sleep with it wrapped in cloth near your chest. It's not a weapon. It's not protection. It's proof that you are not a laborer. Not exactly. You stand, stretch. Your bones answer before your voice does. They pop, crack, shift. You are not old, but the pyramid does not care. It ages everyone equally. The mat is rolled. Your blanket folded in half, then again, placed on the flat stone you use as a seat when there's time for sitting. There is never time for sitting. Outside, the sky is still dark, but there's light in the east. A gray line, like a blade drawn gently across the sky's throat. You walk, past bodies still curled in sleep, past the smell of men, and oil, and whatever passed for meat in last night's stew. You do not wake them. They will wake when the overseer whistles. You are early by design. You want a moment with the stone. The pyramid is there, always there, more shape than shadow in this light, a geometry of cruelty. You stand at its base and look up, not because you admire it, because you have to remember, this is your master, not the man in linen, not the scribe from the capital. The stones, the weight, the need to build something that will not love you back. You pull your tablet from the sack. The wax is smooth, still clean. It will not stay that way. Today you will count bricks and broken ropes, and how many men fall sick before mid-morning. You will write each number with the neatness your father beat into you. He was a builder, too, but not like you. He carved. You count. He bled. You document. Some days, you wish you were more like him. Other days, you're glad your hands don't blister. Your mind blisters instead. The sun finally breaks. Not rises, breaks. It spills across the plain like it's angry, like it's remembering a debt. You squint. Your eyes water. You write your first line of the day. 72 men assigned to block hauling. 1 missing. 1 injured. The injured one groans behind you. He's limping. A rock fell on his toe yesterday. You write his name, his village, and leave space to mark whether he dies. Breakfast is dates, flat bread, lukewarm beer. You eat fast, not because you're hungry, because if you don't, someone else will take it. Your mouth is dry even before you swallow. The men speak little. Only the ones new to the crew still talk in the mornings. The old ones save their breath for curses. And carrying. The overseer arrives. White cloth. Bare feet. A stick too clean to have been used recently. He doesn't look at you. That's good. He whistles. The men rise. The day begins. You walk the line with your tablet pressed to your chest. You nod to the rope teams. Count oxen. Record cart damage. You mark one man as unfit. He vomits twice and refuses water. You do not ask why. You are not here to ask. You are here to see, to record, to leave no space for lies. Later, in the heat, a block slips. A rope frays. A man screams. His leg bends wrong. You flinch, but your hands move quickly. Injury. Left leg. Team 7. Replaced by brother. That's how it works here. You are not allowed to stop writing. Not even when the bone pokes through the skin. At midday, the shade disappears. Completely. The pyramid reflects heat like a curse. You sit beneath the cart for a moment. A drop of sweat lands on your wax tablet. Smears a number. You redo the entry. The blacksmith's boy brings water. You thank him. He nods. He's 12. Already stronger than you'll ever be. Someone argues. Loud. A foreman. A worker. A name missing from the rolls. You're called to resolve it. You check your list. You find the mark. The man's name is there. Yesterday. Not today. You write. Discrepancy noted. Probable error. The foreman glares. You shrug. You do not defend yourself. The truth is not your weapon. The truth is just your weight. You carry it like they carry the stones. You are not a priest. You do not believe that words live forever. But part of you wonders what will become of your wax, your tablets, the scratches you make each day with fingers that shake slightly by night. Will anyone melt them clean? Will your numbers vanish like breath on desert wind? Or worse, will someone read them and misunderstand? The sun dips. Work slows. Someone sings. Off-key. But it helps. You finish the day with sore eyes. A full page. 3 injuries. 1 death. You don't cry for him. No one does. You only write, body removed. Brick quota reassigned. You erase his name from the roll. You go to the fire. You eat again. Your fingers ache more than your stomach. You lie down on your mat. You close your eyes, and the sand finds your teeth again, just as it always does. The morning begins again, not with sunrise, with the first cough, a wet, tired sound. It comes from the man beside you. You don't know his name, but you know his cough. It's been there all week. You roll over. The blanket sticks to your skin. You pull it away and sit up. No one speaks. That's the agreement. No talk until the sun touches the top of the eastern ridge. Until then, you are just bodies in rest. Not men, not workers, not watchers. You rub your eyes. Sand comes off on your fingers. You do not know if it came from the blanket or your face. You stand. Your knees click. You stretch your back. The sky is soft gray. Not dawn yet. Just the idea of it. The girl with the water jars walks past. She doesn't look at you. She never does. She carries both jars full. Her arms barely bend. She is stronger than any of the scribes from the capital. You know this without doubt. You find your tablet. The wax is stiff. You scrape yesterday's totals into your second copy slate. A backup. Your master taught you that. He said, "Only the wind forgets. You must not." You remember, even when you don't want to. You mark the death again. You still don't remember the man's face. Only the number beside his name. The sun rises while you sit. You don't watch it. You let it find you. Heat will follow soon, but for a moment, it's golden, almost kind. You let it warm your neck, and you write today's date with extra care. The lunar cycle is wrong again. The priest will complain. You will write what you are told. You are not paid to be correct. You are paid to agree. The cook's boy comes by with stale bread. You trade 2 chips of charcoal for it. He says nothing. Neither do you. The bread is hard enough to break a tooth, but you chew it slowly. Each bite reminds you that your mouth still works. That's a kind of wealth. Today, the tally begins with tool reports. The blacksmith's apprentice greets you with a nod. You ask how many chisels dulled. He shows you 7, 2 snapped, 1 missing. You write it all. You do not ask what happened. He won't tell you. He's young, but not stupid. Snapped tools mean blame. Missing tools mean theft. You mark it as unclear. He breathes out, says nothing, walks away. You both understand the rules. You make your way to the ramp. It's steeper now. They keep building, and you keep climbing. Your legs are not made for labor, but they carry you because they must. The bricks are laid in quiet rhythm. Grunts, thuds, sand crunching under every step. One man hums. Another curses him. The humming stops. You pause at the midpoint. Wipe sweat from your brow with a linen scrap. Your shirt sticks to your ribs. It will dry, stiff. You open your wax. Mark. Ramp progress. 6 rows since last dusk. 2 blocks split. 1 dropped. You glance down. The broken block lies in pieces near the southern edge. It will take 2 men half the day to haul it away. You note that too. At the top, a foreman waits. He's thin. Too clean. He smells of imported oil. He smiles at you. It doesn't reach his eyes. He says, "Good morning, scribe." You bow slightly. He says, "We're short 3 on haul team 4. You nod. He says, "Write that they were late." You know they were sick. You saw 1 coughing blood yesterday. You say nothing. You write, 3 absent, marked late. He nods, walks away. The truth stays in your throat. It tastes like sand. At midday, the sun becomes a god again. Burning, watching. The bricks are hot to the touch. The men wrap their hands. Still, some burn. You hear the hiss of skin against stone. Someone screams. Brief. Then silence. You don't go check. You write, "Burn injury. Forearm. Team 7. That's enough. More than most would bother." The water boy spills a jug. It soaks the sand, darkens it. You watch the water vanish. The thirst remains. No one beats him. Not today. But they all stare. He runs. You mark the spill as accidental. The word looks small on the wax. You scrape it clean. Write minor loss. The foreman will be pleased. You find shade when the sun hits its peak. Under the edge of a supply tent, your wax is soft now. You must press lightly. You review the morning's counts. 1 block lost. 3 tools broken. 2 injuries. 24 bricks placed. A good day. A survivable one. You think of home, of a mother who once braided your hair, of a father who died coughing in spring. You think of a sister who married a butcher and forgot to write you. You don't blame her. You wouldn't write yourself either. The wind picks up. Dust coats your arms, your wax, your teeth. You spit once. It's brown. The sun begins to lower. Shadows lengthen. The pyramid casts its own silence, deeper than words. You feel it in your ribs, a weight that isn't gravity, a knowing that this will be here when you're not, and that no one will remember your hand was part of it. You close your tablet. Walk slowly, past the ramps, the groaning men, the carved warnings, the gods painted on canvas banners. You pass a boy asleep in the sand. You let him sleep. Tomorrow will come, and it will not be kinder than today. Let him dream while he can. You return to the tent. Remove your sandals. Your feet pulse. The blisters will not open tonight. The cook hands you a bowl. You thank him. You eat. Then you write. End of day. No deaths. 3 injured. 38 bricks placed. 2 tools lost. 1 boy punished. You pause. Then scratch out that last line. You rewrite it. 1 mistake corrected. The sun is gone. The stars arrive. Sharp, small. You lie on your mat. Your stylus beside you. The wind finds your cheek, and the sand finds your teeth. Again, as always, morning comes like an old debt. Not sudden, but impossible to ignore. You wake with the ache in your back already whispering. You stretch. The mat cracks beneath you dried reeds, tired like your bones. Your eyes burn. Too little sleep. Too much dust. Again, the sun hasn't risen yet, but the air is already thick. The promise of heat hangs over everything. You sit up and press your palms to your face. The calluses are deeper now, not from carving, from holding the tablet too tightly, like the words might escape. They never do. They linger, like sweat, like blame. You eat alone today. Half a loaf, 2 olives, a swallow of beer that tastes like last week's water. You write before the others stir. Today's wax is hard, cold. You like it that way. Mistakes stay smaller. You draw a line for every category. Workers, bricks, ropes, carts, tools, blood. You never label the last one out loud, but it's always there. The wind comes early. It brings sand, not in clouds, in streams, small rivers that slide along the ground. You wrap your face. The cloth is thin, but enough. The pyramid waits. Still. Impossible. Unblinking. The girl with the water jars drops one. It splits. Water spills onto the stone floor. She kneels, tries to gather it back with her hands, as if that will undo it. You watch. Say nothing. The overseer doesn't see. That's good. She'll go thirsty today, but not punished. You write, loss, 1 vessel, not replaced. You don't include her name. Mercy by omission. The walk to the ramp feels longer. Your sandals rub a new spot raw. Each step is a question. Still going? Still going. The carts creak. Ropes stretch and groan. Men cough and mutter. This is the sound of progress. This is the price of eternity. At the base, you meet the tally master. He has a scar across his lip. He never smiles. You exchange slates. He grunts. You correct his numbers. He doesn't thank you. He knows you're right. He hates that you're right. But right doesn't matter here. Only stone does. Today, a new man joins Team 8. You note his name. Young, from the south. He looks eager. By midday, he will stop being eager. By next week, he will stop being young. You've seen it before. You will write it again. At the top of the ramp, the foreman argues with a priest. The priest says the angle of the causeway is incorrect, that the gods require a different slope. That divine alignment has been disrupted. The foreman says nothing. The priest says more. Eventually, the foreman agrees. You mark it. Adjustment ordered. Unknown delay. You do not write what the workers say under their breath. You never do. A rope snaps around the 6th hour. A block slides. No one is crushed, but 2 men are thrown. One lands wrong. You hear the pop from here. He screams until the overseer gestures. Then he screams no more. You write. Ankle injury. Removed. You do not follow him. You know what comes next. The medic will wrap it in linen and date juice. He will limp for months, then disappear. All of them do. You pass the place where last week's man died. The sand is flat now. No stain. No marker. You pause. Place your hand to your chest. Not in prayer. In memory. There is a difference. Lunch is more silence. You sit with the other scribes. One tells a joke about the crocodiles in the canal. No one laughs. Too tired. Too dry. The bread is hard again. The beer warmer than your skin. Still, you eat. Still, you drink. Still, you write. Midday. 34 bricks placed. 1 injury. No deaths. 1 divine complaint. You underline the last part, just in case someone wants to check. The shadows shift. The sun bleeds orange. The stones shimmer. You check the totals again. Someone lies. 1 block is missing. You count again. Still missing. You write it anyway. Because here, the block doesn't need to be real. Only recorded. Only believed. That's how pyramids rise. Not on truth, but on shared silence. Near the end of the day, a man cries out. Not pain. Not injury. He's laughing. You approach, tablet ready. He's made a small sculpture from clay. It looks like the overseer. Round belly, angry eyes. Everyone laughs. Even you. You write nothing. You let the joke stay free. One of the few things allowed to. At sunset, you walk the perimeter. Check the rope sheds. Note which carts were returned. Mark 1 wheel cracked. The girl with the water jars passes you again. This time, she carries only 1, but she nods. You nod back. You still don't know her name, but you know she's survived 42 days here. Longer than some men. Longer than some priests. You write a line at the bottom of the wax. Still walking. No one will see it but you, but that's enough. You eat after dark. The fire flickers weakly. The meat is thin. The bread burnt. You finish every bite. The other scribes are quieter than usual. One is missing. He fell from the platform this morning. No one talks about it, but his blanket is folded. His tablet is gone. You write the final line of the day. Removed. Cause. Fall. Reassigned. You lie down. Watch the stars blink open. Some say they are gods. You're not so sure. You think maybe they're just watchers. Like you. Too far away to help, but always writing things down. You wake up before your name. That's how it feels. The body moves. The eyes open. The breath returns. But your name? It lingers behind, still curled in sleep. It doesn't want to follow. You don't blame it. The tent is colder than usual. A breeze cuts through the flap, brushing over your toes. The sand is softer this morning, as if the wind smoothed it overnight. You sit up, reach for your stylus. The wax tablet is cool to the touch. That's good. It means the day hasn't started punishing you yet. But it will. It always does. You stretch slowly. Your shoulder aches more than it did yesterday. You wonder if you slept wrong. You wonder if this is how bones say goodbye, not loudly, just gradually. You rub it once, then rise. Outside, the light is a pale blue, the hour before gold, before heat, before the noise. It's the only hour that listens. A worker walks by, limping slightly. He carries a basket of rope. Doesn't look at you. You don't look away. He was laughing yesterday. Today, he's not. You make a mental note. Monitor Team 6. Fatigue visible. You'll write it down later. If there's time. The bread is softer than usual. Someone added oil. You wonder if it was a gift or a mistake. You eat it quickly, either way. You drink a little beer, more bitter than normal. You grimace. The girl with the water jar walks past again. 2 jugs, no spill, no sound. You wonder how she does it. You don't ask. No one asks her anything. She doesn't answer. You write the date. Mark the team rotations. Count the tools assigned. You scratch out a name, someone who didn't return last night. No one explained. No one will. You mark, absent, unconfirmed. A quiet kind of death. The worst kind. On your way to the platform, you pass the place where the new scribe fell last week. There's no marker, just a scuff in the dust that never smooths. You pause, whisper his name. You think it was Neff or something. That's enough. No one else remembered. The foreman meets you near the southern ramp. His robe is brighter than usual. New dye, rich color. You wonder if he earned it. You know he didn't. He asks if yesterday's tally was approved. You say yes. He doesn't thank you. Just walks away. You feel the lie itch behind your ears. You wrote what he wanted, not what was true. But sometimes, survival is the smoother lie. The priest appears mid-morning. He inspects the sacred measurements again. You hand him the records. He frowns, says, "The gods asked for symmetry." You say, "The stone shifts with heat." He glares. You don't flinch. You write, "Adjustment requested. Priest insists." You want to add, "The gods have no fingers." But you don't. A boy brings water. His eyes are red. Dust. Or grief. Or both. You take the cup, Say thank you. He nods. Says nothing. You write nothing. Sometimes words are too sharp, even for wax. One of the older workers collapses just before midday. No shout, just knees folding, body slumping like cloth. They drag him to the shade. The medic gives him water. He drinks it like it hurts. You stand at a distance and record heat, exhaustion, resting, monitored. You want to add, he didn't cry. You don't. The sun reaches its highest point. The platform glows like gold, but no one celebrates. Gold here is heat, pain, reflection that blinds. The bricks sizzle under bare fingers. One man curses loudly. The foreman hears. Strikes him once. You see it. You write. Disruption. Reprimanded. You don't mention the bruise forming under the man's eye. No space on the slate. No one asks for that kind of record. In the afternoon, a cart breaks. Wheel shatters like bone. Wood splinters across the path. 2 men trip. One cuts his knee, the other his hand. You write, cart failure. Injuries, minor. Repair scheduled. The carpenter arrives late. Blames the heat. Blames the oxen. Blames the gods. You write none of that. You just nod and sharpen your stylus. Later, you find a beetle crawling across your wax. A scarab, dark, small. It leaves tiny tracks. You watch it for a moment, then gently blow it away. You do not brush it. You do not harm it. You know better. Some things here are older than stone, older than names, older than you, and they do not forget. Evening begins with smoke. Someone burns oil too fast. The smell curls around the tents. You press cloth to your nose. Try not to cough. You finish your counts. 63 bricks placed. 4 injuries. 1 reprimand. 1 absence still unaccounted for. You leave the last line open, just in case. Dinner is lentils. No bread. You eat slowly. Chew each bite 5 times. Count the heartbeats between swallows. The scribe across from you asks for extra ink. You trade him 2 stylus tips for half a jar. You feel the wind in your chest. Small victories taste like salt and satisfaction. Night falls unevenly. The fire crackles. Someone sings. Badly. No one stops him. You sit near the edge of the circle. Wax in your lap. Final notes scratched into fading lines. You write, the gods did not visit today. Then scratch it out. Then write, we're still here. You lie down. Face the stars. You don't name them anymore. You've run out of names, but they still blink above you, and you don't know if they're watching, or if they're just waiting. Like you, the morning begins late. Not because the sun is slow, because your body is slower. Your eyes open, but only after your back reminds you that you slept wrong. You didn't choose how to sleep. There is one position, flat, stiff, still. The mat is thinner now. The reeds inside have cracked. The stuffing is escaping, one night at a time. You'll replace it next month. Maybe. If you're still here, the sand inside the tent is warmer than it should be. You sweep some of it off your blanket. It returns immediately, like a promise, like a curse. You sit up. Your knees disagree. You stand anyway. And that's what the body does here. It learns how to keep moving without permission. You eat alone again. Bread and bean paste. No salt today. The jar tipped yesterday. Spilled everything into the fire. No one cried. No one screamed. But there was a silence so deep it made the flames nervous. You chew. Count each bite in your head. 7, 8, 9. You lose track. Swallow anyway. Your tablet waits for you. The wax is dull. Your stylus is chipped. You make a note to repair it later. You won't. You never do. Instead, you adjust how you hold it. Angle it slightly. Sharpen with a fingernail. It works. It always does. Until it doesn't. Outside, the air is thick with the sound of stone. Not striking. Moving. Blocks slide over logs. Groan down the ramps. Leave trails in the dirt. Men chant rhythm to their own pace. Low and repetitive. It's not music, but it holds them together. You walk past them. They don't look up. You're not important. Just a man who watches. You pass a worker with no sandals. He walks slower. Each step lands too hard. You write, foot injury. No replacement shoes. Note, follow up tomorrow. You know there won't be a follow-up, but the note matters. If not to him, then to you. At the northern ramp, 2 oxen refuse to pull. They dig their hooves into the dirt. Snort. Shift their weight. They know something. You don't know what. But you write, stoppage, animal refusal, delay, minor. The foreman arrives, furious. He strikes one of the beasts on the flank. It kicks, misses. Everyone freezes. You wait. You watch. He swears, then storms off. The oxen still don't move. Later, someone replaces them. You do not write the foreman's name. That's protection. For him, and for you. A worker drops a rope. It unspools like a snake across the sand. The block jerks sideways. No damage. No injury. Just dust and shame. The man bends to collect it. You record it. Minor error. Team 3. No correction needed. But you look at his face as he works. He looks older today. Everyone does. Even the pyramid. Midday comes without relief. The wind is gone. The sky is blank. No clouds. No birds. No mercy. Your water is warm. Still, you drink it. The cook forgot the herbs today. The stew is thin. The bread too hard. But no one complains. No one ever does during the 5th month of work. The body learns silence. The stomach learns surrender. You sit under a tarp with your slate on your knees. You list all the bricks counted today. 48 placed. 2 chipped. 3 not aligned. You add 1 correction request. 2 tool failures. Then pause. You add a line that no one asked for. 1 boy smiled. No reason found. You don't plan to show it. You just don't want to forget. The heat fades into evening. The shadows stretch longer. The stones no longer shine, they absorb. Everything softens. Even your legs. Even the curses. Someone sings. The melody is ancient. Off key. Perfect. You walk the edge of the storage yard. Check the ropes. Note which ones are frayed. 2 broken. 1 knotted improperly. Another replaced by cloth. You write it all. You smell oil on the breeze. Someone spilled it near the tool shed. You record it. Loss, minor, Fire risk, low. You write a warning in large script. Leave it on the shed wall. Tomorrow, it'll be gone. But tonight, it feels like something. The girl with the water jugs walks past. Only one today. The other arm is bandaged. She walks slower. You look at her. She notices. She says nothing. Neither do you. You write nothing. Just remember. Just hold the image like you hold a truth no one asked for. Dinner is shared. The mood is heavier than usual. One of the older scribes says the pharaoh's emissary is visiting soon, that the gods must be pleased, that new statues will arrive, that we should give thanks. You nod. You don't believe. Not in statues. Not in men. But you write. Statues expected. Ceremony unconfirmed. You know how to make faith sound practical. Night brings wind again. It slides through the tents, picks up bits of dust, carries thoughts too heavy to say aloud. You sit near the fire. You listen to silence wrap around tired bones. The firewood pops once. Someone snores. The rest holds still. You lie down with your tablet beside you. It still holds the heat of your hand. You flip to the back, etch a final note before sleep. The pyramid is not finished, but it never is, because finishing means forgetting, and this place remembers everything. You close your eyes. The sand comes back. So does the ache, but so do you. Some days begin with wind. Others begin with silence. Today begins with both. The wind moves before the sun. It wakes the sand, not you. You only feel it later, brushing your arms, slipping beneath the edges of your tunic like a curious hand. It brings no chill, only reminder. You sit up slower today, not because you're lazy, because everything costs something. The older men call it the tax of continuing. You've started to understand what they mean. Your fingers fumble for the stylus. It's not where you left it. You find it beneath your mat, half buried in sleep and sand. You clean it with your breath. That's enough. It still writes. It still obeys. The overseer passes you without a word. That's good. His silence is safer than his questions. Last time he spoke, 2 men lost rations for contradicting him. You don't need that today. The bread today is darker. Someone added barley. It crumbles faster. You chew slower. The cook avoids your eyes. You don't know why. You write it down anyway. Change in grain. No explanation. You reach the platform before the first stone moves. You like it that way. It gives you time to think about yesterday's numbers and what they mean. They never lie, but they rarely tell the truth either. The new boy is already working. Too hard. His shoulders don't move right. Too much tension. Too much belief. You write, Team 7, New Edition, Monitor for Burnout. It sounds clinical. It's meant to. By midday, 1 man collapses. His face is too red. You don't touch him. Just observe. That's what you do. The medic arrives late. Water. Shade. 2 words in a language older than pain. You record it all. The stones don't care who bleeds. They don't care who dies. They don't know they're being arranged. You wonder if that's peace or cruelty. You don't answer. Just write, Block 230. 1. Cracked during placement. A priest walks by with blue on his fingers. He doesn't explain. No one asks. The men work around him like he's smoke. He leaves incense in the air and tension in the spine. You cough quietly and keep writing. At dusk, a worker sings something soft. The words are wrong, but the tune is right. You don't correct him. You mark the moment. Morale, elevated briefly. You know it won't last. You eat lentils and stare at the fire. The flames are smaller tonight. Someone is saving wood. You write a line in the margin of your wax. Fire small. Warmth sufficient. Night tolerable. Before sleep, you draw a single line across your tablet. Not a word, just a mark, a divider, a pause, a breath. Tomorrow will need its own wax, its own pain, its own forgetting. After dinner, the talk is muted. Someone asks if a dust storm is coming. Someone else shrugs. You glance toward the horizon. Nothing yet, but that doesn't mean it's not coming. You remember storms from your first season. The way the world turns gray. How the sand finds places even your blood doesn't remember. You write a short note. Wind increases. Possible storm tomorrow. A man tells a story by the fire. It's about a crocodile who pretended to be a god. It ends badly. No one laughs, but no one interrupts. Some stories don't need approval, only telling. You sharpen your stylus with a stone edge. The grain is rough. Your fingers slip once. Blood beads. You suck your thumb, then go back to work. Pain is just punctuation. Before sleep, you open a blank section of wax and write your name. Not for record keeping, just to remember it. You stare at the letters until they stop looking like you. Then you smooth them out. Flatten the wax. Erase the self. Close the tablet. Close your eyes. And wait for morning to begin again without permission. The pyramid is quiet today. Not silent, just watchful. You sense it watching you as much as you watch it. You wonder what it thinks. If it thinks, a man cuts his hand on a chipped stone. He swears softly. You note it. Injury. Hand. Left. Minor bleed. Continued work. He nods at you as you walk by. You nod back. That's the whole exchange. Later, a young worker refuses to move a block. He says it's cursed. Says it groaned when he touched it. The foreman yells. The man doesn't argue. He just walks away. You don't stop him. You don't write it down. Not everything gets recorded. The sky turns pale in the late afternoon. Clouds gather where they shouldn't. The priest frowns, says nothing. You mark the observation. Unusual weather. Sky deviation to the west. It's not your job to interpret, only to notice. You pause by the water jars. Only one is full. The girl is missing today. You feel the absence like a skipped heartbeat. You don't ask. You write a question mark next to yesterday's line. It doesn't answer anything, but it holds space. When the stars rise, you sit by the embers. The fire is mostly ash. Someone adds dried palm, a quick burst of light. You see your own face reflected in the bronze of your stylus tip. You look older. You look like someone who never expected to last this long. You sleep without dreams, or you dream without memory. Either way, when you wake tomorrow, the wax will be waiting, the numbers will return, and the stones will still not care who you were the day before. Tonight, before you close your eyes, you whisper a name you haven't said in years. Maybe it was your brother, or a friend, or a boy who didn't survive the second season. The name doesn't answer back, but the sand seems to listen. You write nothing this time. Some grief doesn't belong to wax. You wake to shouting. Not angry, not urgent, just the kind that makes you know something's wrong, but not new. The kind of shouting that says, "We've done this before, we'll do it again." You sit up. The sun hasn't cleared the ridge yet, but it's awake. So you are too. The man who shouted is coughing now, deep, Wet. He'll be sent to the side today. Maybe to the sick tent. Maybe home, if such a thing still exists for him. You rub your eyes. The sand is fine, powdery. You slept with your face turned toward the flap again. That's why your teeth grind like sandstone when you yawn. You check your stylus. Still there. Still whole. You mutter, thanks to no god in particular. Only habit. You check your wax. Yesterday's notes are clear. Legible. You begin again. The cook gives out dates today. Rare. Sweet. Yours is small, sticky. You chew it too long, afraid it's a trick. It's not. Just kindness. Or surplus. The sky is pale and wide. The air already warm. No breeze. You see birds above the cliffs. Vultures. They don't mean anything. But they're always here. Always waiting. You reach the ramp as the first bricks are being set. The ropes creak. The logs under the stones roll. Squeak. Settle. Everything begins again. The foreman waves at you. Not a greeting, an instruction. He wants numbers for Hall Group 5. You nod. Begin your count. 7 men, 2 oxen, 4 ropes, 1 cart. All present. All moving. You mark it on the wax. Then check the tool crates. 1 chisel missing. Not broken. Gone. You write. Tool. Chisel. Status. Misplaced. You know what that means? Someone traded it. Or lost it. Either way, it's gone. You don't look for blame. That's not your task. Only tally. Only notice. Only remember. A young man stumbles near the stone line. Too fast. Too proud. He drops a plank. It slaps the ground, breaks clean in half. The sound echoes. The others stop. The foreman walks over. No words. Just a look. The boy picks up the broken wood. Walks away. You mark. Material loss. Team 3. No injury. But your hand lingers. You want to write more. You don't. Midday hits like a hammer. Sun everywhere. No shade. The water carriers move fast. No spills today. One girl smiles. You note it. Morale. Steady. Unusual. A priest appears with a scroll. Orders from above. Change in brick pattern. Sacred ratios must be upheld. You nod. Take the scroll. Copy the order. You don't argue. You don't believe. But you write it cleanly. You write it beautifully. They like when it looks like belief. Later, a block chips. Edge snaps off during placement. The workers flinch. You measure the damage. Not much. Still, the brick can't be used. You write, Block 812, rejected, edge fault, reuse possible. You watch the men carry it aside. They don't speak. One spits. Not in anger, just habit. The sand takes it like everything else. Evening nears. Shadows grow long. You check the ropes again. 2 frayed. 1 marked for replacement. You scratch a mark beside it. The rope creaks louder, knowing it's been noticed. You stop by the sick tent. The coughing man is inside. Still breathing. His chest heaves like it's tired of the job. You write his name, just in case. You eat bread and lentils. They taste of nothing. You chew slowly. Across the fire, someone sings. An old song. No words. Just hums in time. You don't stop him. No one does. Before sleep, you smooth your wax. Draw one line. The tally: 60. 1 bricks. 2 tools lost. 1 boy reprimanded. 1 man fading. 1 prayer written by a hand that doesn't believe. You stare at the line. Wonder if it's enough. Wonder if it ever is. Someone whispers that a falcon flew low near the north side of the quarry. An omen, they say. You ask no questions. You don't need answers. You write, unusual falcon behavior reported. Belief in omens spreading among teams 4 and 6. The stone pullers chant louder in the late afternoon. Their voices dry, but unified. It helps the ropes. Helps the fear. You stand back and count. 1 rope frays visibly. 1 knot slips. You write both. A woman appears at the edge of camp, not part of the work detail. Selling something charms, trinkets, dried figs. The guards let her be. She doesn't speak to you, but you record. Outsider entered perimeter. No disturbance noted. In the records tent, your candle flickers as night settles. You compare tallies from 3 days past. 1 column doesn't match. You know why. The foreman adjusted it. You copy his version. Then, in your private tablet, you write the truth. Someone asks about the stars, if they're gods or just holes in the sky. You don't answer. You look up and feel nothing. That's not apathy. That's experience. You write, night sky clear. Speculation among laborers continues. Before bed, you rinse your hands with leftover water. It smells like rope and stone. You stare at your palms. The lines grow deeper each week. Not from holding the stylus, from holding the weight of watching. You lie back. The mat squeaks. Your wax is full. Tomorrow we'll need a new sheet. You hope the sand is kinder to the ink than it is to the skin. In the last light before sleep, you draw a small scarab into the corner of your wax. Not for record. Not for anyone else. Just a reminder that even small things survive the weight. That not everything gets crushed. That memory can have shape. And sometimes, shape is enough. The morning starts with no wind, no noise, not even footsteps. It feels wrong, but no one says that aloud. You rise slower today, not from laziness, from uncertainty. There's something in the air that makes people speak with their eyes, not their mouths. You match them. The cook doesn't meet your gaze. He hands you bread without a word. It's flatter than usual, burned slightly. You chew it anyway. Your jaw aches, not from hunger, from habit. You walk the edge of camp before sunrise, not assigned, just needed. Some days the only way to know what's broken is to watch what moves too quietly. You pass a tent with its flap open, no one inside, but 2 sleeping mats, 1 unused. You write, absence noted, tent 34. No witness. You don't knock. There's no one to answer. The stones arrive late. A full team stands idle. 1 man hums to himself. Another sharpens his tool against stone. You glance up. The oxen aren't harnessed. The driver isn't here. You mark it down. Delay. Animal team missing. Manual work paused. You don't speculate. That's someone else's job. You just prepare for when the whispering starts. At midday, the sun feels heavier. There's no other word. It presses down rather than shines. You wet your cloth and drape it over your head. It helps. Briefly, the foreman barks something about productivity. His voice cracks in the heat. You record none of it. Not because it's untrue, but because it doesn't help the record. Only feeds the fire. A fight breaks out near the water jars. Quick, 2 men. One curses, one bleeds. You don't see how it started, only that it ends fast, with both walking away. You write, altercation, jars area, supervision needed. That's all. No names. You've learned not to keep names where they can be found. One worker jokes about the gods being thirsty. The laughter that follows is dry, brittle. You pretend not to hear, but you mark, spirits fraying, monitor closely. The priest appears late in the afternoon. This one is new. His robes are clean, his feet are soft. He carries a scroll with gold script. You already dislike him. He demands numbers. You provide them. He corrects you on one figure, a ceremonial tally. You apologize, not because he's right, because he'll remember you if you don't. You write down his corrections, and in your private wax, you write your own. Truth has 2 homes, the one they see and the one that survives. As dusk settles, the oxen return. No one explains. You note. Team reinstated. No injuries. Delay resolved. You want to add, no justice offered, but your hand doesn't move. Someone drops a bowl during the meal. It breaks into 5 pieces. The sound is sharper than any argument. You flinch. So does everyone else. The silence afterward is thick. You count the stars during patrol. Just once. Just to feel like something's consistent. You stop at 28, not because they end, but because your eyes water. You blink it away. A boy tells a story about a man who built a tower so tall, the gods knocked it down. He calls it fiction. You call it prophecy. You don't write it down. Not yet. In your tent, the sand creeps up your legs as you rest. It's cool, gentle, like a child trying to wake you without shaking. You let it. You open your tablet, smooth it slowly, then pause. You don't write, you just breathe. Just once, just fully, when even the wind stays quiet. In the quiet near the fire, a man plucks at a reed flute. The sound is imperfect, breathy, but it floats above the tents like a thread of memory, trying to find where it belongs. You ask no questions. You just listen. Not to the tune, but to the pauses between notes. That's where the truth lives, in what's not played. Someone murmurs a prayer for a sister who never returned from the flood season. They say her bones are part of the river now. You write nothing. Not because it's not worth recording, but because it already lives in the water. An old man shuffles past with a limp. You've never seen him lift a stone, but everyone steps aside when he walks. You mark, presence noted. No task assigned. Social weight high. Later, a dog barks outside camp. Short, sharp. You look, but see nothing. You record. Canine disturbance. No threat visible. One of the scribes offers you wine. Just a sip. Just to forget the numbers. You decline, but you smell it. And in that scent, you remember your father's hands. How they used to tremble when pouring during the famine years. You stare at the wax long after the fire dies. Your fingers trace old lines. Names, symbols, numbers, prayers. They all blur eventually. But the pressure of the stylus never leaves the page. Or your palm. Before sleep, you hear someone whisper, "We are burying the living to honor the dead." You don't ask who said it. You just lie back and let the thought echo through you like a bell underwater. And then, nothing. At the edge of your wax tablet, you draw a small circle. Inside it, a dot. It's not a symbol, not yet, but it feels like one. Maybe a beginning, maybe a wound. The night pulls tighter. The air cools, but doesn't comfort. You pull the blanket higher, not for warmth, for silence. Some protection that doesn't make noise. You wonder what day it is. Not the number, but the meaning. How many have passed since your arrival? How many since your first wax line? How many left before the lines stop? You close your tablet. Let the sand settle around it. Let your body soften. The pyramid waits without speaking, but you know it watches everything. There's a new sound this morning. Not birds, not wind. Something deeper, like the pyramid remembering something it forgot. You open your eyes before the sun. You didn't mean to, but the noise pulled you from a dream you can't recall. The sound is low, metallic. Not close, but close enough to wake you. Others stir slowly. You watch them sit, rub their faces, scan the horizon. No one speaks. The sound fades. Or maybe blends into the rest of the morning fire crackle, shovel scrape, silence. The cook burns the bread. He curses under his breath. You chew it anyway. It leaves a bitterness behind your teeth. You don't write that down. Some things are understood without ink. The work starts later today. Someone's missing from the tally. A man from Team 6. No one knows where he went. Or they know, and they won't say. You write, worker absent, Team 6, name withheld. The priest is already watching. His eyes are sharper than his tongue. He asks no questions, but you feel weighed anyway. You lower your head and take your place by the ramps. A block slips during lifting. Not much. Just an inch. But the sound is wrong, a hard crack, followed by silence too deep. One man stares too long at it. You write, stone instability. Review harness integrity. When they set it down, it rests crooked. The foreman shrugs. It's buried later anyway, he says. You nod. But you write, misalignment, 2 degrees, logged. A medic walks past you muttering. You catch the word infection. You don't follow. You just mark. Medical concern noted. Cause unspecified. By noon, the missing man still hasn't returned. Whispers now. Some say he ran. Some say he saw something in the quarry. One man says the pyramid called him. You've heard that one before. It never ends well. The work slows. Not for lack of effort, but for too much attention. Everyone watches everyone else. Ropes checked twice. Stones measured again. Superstition makes good inspectors. A boy scrapes his leg. Small cut, but he asks for a blessing from the old woman who tends the embers. She touches his forehead and whispers something you can't hear. He thanks her, like she's royalty. You write, non-sanctioned blessing performed. Result, emotional relief. You hesitate, then add, possible placebo benefit. A column of smoke rises to the east. Far from camp. You wonder if it's a signal or a funeral. You don't ask. You note it. Distant smoke. Direction northeast. No response issued. The foreman growls something about sand in the joints. You nod. Scratch the stylus. Mechanism delay, sand infiltration. Half-day estimate. The men rest while the pulleys are cleaned. One sings quietly. A song about a bird trapped in a jar. You remember the tune, not the words. You hum along in your throat, not loud enough for anyone but yourself. Later, the priest blesses the next lift. A formal gesture. 2 hands raised. Incense flicked. You smell myrrh and salt. You write it all. Not because you believe. Because it happened. The sun hits you harder today, as if it's punishing the sand through your skin. You shade your wax with your other hand, but your palm sweats onto the record. Smudged. Still readable. Someone asks you if it's true that scribes live longer. You laugh. Once. A small thing. You say nothing. But later, when you're alone, you write. Longevity not guaranteed. Literacy no protection. And the day lengthens. In the evening, the air thickens. Not with heat, with waiting. As if something is about to happen, but hasn't chosen the moment yet. A worker asks if you've seen a second shadow lately. His eyes twitch when he speaks. You tell him shadows are just light misbehaving. He doesn't believe you. Neither do you. You pass the stone that cracked. It hasn't been moved. You trace a finger over the fault line. It's warm, almost soft. You pull your hand away. Back in your tent, you review your notes. The ink has bled in one corner. The page curls, like it's afraid of what you wrote there. You flatten it, press it firm. Truth deserves to stay visible. At the far edge of camp, a child laughs. You didn't know there were children here. You write, unexpected child laughter. Time, sunset. No source confirmed. Someone lights a fire with old palm leaves. It smells of stories. You don't sit by it, but you watch the smoke. It rises too straight, too still. You write nothing. Just feel it. The priest appears again, this time holding a bundle of cloth. He buries it at the base of the supply tent. You pretend not to see, but you record the location, because someday someone will ask. Before sleep, you whisper to your wax. Not everything buried is dead. Then you smooth the page flat and turn it over. Let the silence be your signature. Then night arrives. That night, your dreams are louder than usual. You walk hallways made of sand, doors that open into sky, hands reaching from beneath the stones not to grab, but to guide. You wake sweating. The sound from morning is back. Louder now. Rhythmic. Like breath through bone. You step outside. The camp is quiet. The stars blink like they know your name. You don't go back to bed. You sit on the cold ground, wax tablet open on your lap. You write, sound recurring, vibration beneath feet, no wind, no speech, moon high. Then you draw a line, straight down the center of the page. A divider, a crack, a seam. You stare at that line for a long time, as if waiting for something to cross it. Nothing does. Not yet. You've stopped asking what day it is. Not because it doesn't matter, because the pyramid doesn't care. It rises one grain at a time, and forgets nothing. You rise with sore knees. Not from labor, from stillness. Sleep doesn't rest the body the way it used to. You wonder how much longer you'll last in this tent, on this mat, with this wax in your hands. The sun is already above the tents. You overslept by 15 heartbeats. You feel shame, but no one noticed. Or no one cared. You don't decide which is worse. There's a buzz in the air, not noise, but awareness. Someone says the missing man returned. Someone else says he didn't. You walk the edge of the camp and don't find him, but you find his sandals near the fire pit, burned, blackened. You write, remains identified, owner assumed, no body. The foreman is quieter today. His voice doesn't carry. His orders come in shrugs and pointed fingers. You mark the new bricks. Smaller, lighter. Someone's cutting corners, maybe literally. The priest leads a short ceremony at midday. He burns oil and presses ash to the foreheads of 5 men. You don't understand the pattern. You write their names anyway. And one extra name your own on the corner of your tablet. Small, hidden. The ropes creak louder now. Age, heat. You run your fingers along them. Splinters catch your skin. You write, wear increasing, schedule maintenance. No one listens, but you still write it. The youngest water carrier falls during her run. A broken pot, a scraped knee, blood on sand. She doesn't cry. You hand her a new jar and write, incident, no foul play, resilience high. Someone carves a symbol into the stone base. Not decorative, not authorized. You see it after dark. A circle with 4 teeth. You pretend not to see it, but you scratch a sketch into the back of your wax and label it unrecorded sigil, meaning unclear. In the mess tent, an old man tells a story of a scribe who carved names into the walls of a tomb so they'd never be forgotten. The tomb collapsed within the year. Some laugh. Some don't. You chew your lentils in silence. The stars arrive late. Cloud cover, maybe. Or hesitation. You don't write them tonight. You let them arrive without your observation. Let them breathe. But the sand doesn't sleep. That night, you dream of stairs. Endless. Wide. Made not of stone, but of names. Each one a rung. Each one whispering. You wake with the taste of copper on your tongue. No blood. Just memory. The sand is colder tonight. It presses against your ankles, like a warning. You don't brush it away. You let it speak. At dawn, you overhear a debate. 2 men argue whether the dead walk beneath the pyramid. One swears he heard footsteps under the stone. The other says that's just the ground settling. You don't choose a side. You just listen. You write. Speculation spreading. Morale stable. Fear not yet disruptive. A new scroll arrives, with directives from higher priests. Adjustments in slope. Calculations you don't trust. You write them carefully. Then double them in private. The numbers don't match. They never do. You keep both sets. One for them. One for truth. The quarry sends fewer stones. The workers talk of a vein drying up. You write, material source, unstable, delay possible. You write it twice. Once in ink, once in wax, just in case. Someone sings again, this time louder, a defiant tune, about a falcon who carried the world in its beak. You hum along, until you realize it's not a song you've heard before, and the singer has no face you remember. You stand. Look, the singer is gone. You mark nothing. You don't want it written. That evening, you organize your tablets. 6 pages of counts. 4 pages of accidents. 1 page you've never shown anyone. It contains no names. Only patterns. Symbols. A feeling you can't explain. You call it your shadow tablet. Before sleep, you press your stylus gently into the corner of a new wax sheet. Just a dot. A placeholder. A promise. And the pyramid keeps rising. You sit at the edge of the fire, your fingers blackened with soot. You wonder what your bones will look like when they're found. Will someone hold them gently? Will they guess you were a scribe? Will they read what you left behind? A man across the fire stares into the flames. He says, without looking, they'll build over this again. Another stone. Another god. Same story. You nod. He doesn't see you. Or maybe he does. It doesn't matter. The wind rises for the first time in 3 nights. It carries sand and memory. You breathe it in. It tastes like everything you've lost. And everything you chose not to write. You close your eyes. The pyramid looms behind your lids. It glows with heat and weight. It speaks without voice. Tells you, you are not forgotten. But you are not remembered either. You place your wax tablet beside your mat. Face down. You whisper to it. When they come, let them read carefully. Let them know I saw. You are not the architect. Not the foreman. Not the god. But still, the shape of the pyramid passes through your hands. You watch. You listen. You write. And somehow, that is enough to make it yours. The morning begins with voices raised. Not in anger, in disagreement. Over how many bricks were laid yesterday. Over whether the southern ramp is sinking. Over whether the sun feels closer than it did the day before. You don't argue. You record. Dispute ongoing. Topics. Material count. Structural stability. Solar fatigue. Unverified. Result. No resolution. The foreman waves a scroll in your face. He says your notes make him look careless. You remind him they are true. He doesn't deny it. He just walks away. You write. Foreman dissatisfied with visibility of operations. A worker slips on a slope. He catches himself. No injury, but he curses the sand as if it betrayed him personally. You write. Minor incident. Emotional response disproportionate. You notice something else. The birds have stopped flying overhead. Not one in 3 days. You write it down. Avian absence noted. Duration. 3 days. No explanation. You don't know why that matters. But it does. At lunch, no one eats together. The heat is too strong. Shadows become shelters. You find a quiet spot by the half-built wall and chew dates slowly. One has a worm. You spit discreetly. You record nothing. Some truths serve no one. You find a message scratched into the side of a supply crate. We are seeds, not stones. You stare at it for too long. You run your fingers over the grooves. You don't know who wrote it, but it echoes inside you. In your tablet, you write the phrase. Then erase it. Then write it again. Then hide it under another entry. Inventory discrepancy. Crate 17 marked as full, actual, partial. You hear laughter later. Real laughter. Deep. Honest. A man drops a load of sand, and it explodes upward into another worker's face. For a second, they are boys again. You write. Morale spike observed. Duration. Brief. In the evening, a sandstorm appears on the horizon. Thin and mean. You report it to the guards. They shrug. You add. Possible incoming storm. Suggest equipment cover. You know they'll ignore it. You write it anyway. And then the storm comes. That night, the storm hits harder than expected. Tense collapse. Sand finds its way into ears, into eyes, into dreams. You do not sleep. You sit upright, holding your wax tablet against your chest as if it were a shield. In the chaos, someone loses a tooth. Another man cries out for his lost pendant, a stone shaped like a fish. He says it was his father's. You write. Storm damage. Personal losses. Confirmed. Casualties. Minor. By morning, the camp is half buried. You dig your tent out with your hands. You cough sand from your lungs. Your fingers bleed. You don't stop. You write. Post-storm recovery required. Supplies compromised. You find a child sitting beside an upturned jar. She offers you a broken pot shard as if it's a gift. You thank her. She smiles. You write. Small kindness exchanged. Source. Unknown child. Mood uplifted. The priest arrives later, robes torn at the hem. He says the storm was a punishment for something unwritten. Everyone looks at you. You say nothing, but you write. Blame assigned. No proof provided. You clean your wax slowly that afternoon. Each line you recarve feels heavier, as if the act of witnessing now adds weight to your wrist. You do not stop, but you wonder what happens when the record keeper breaks. The shadows stretch longer today. You measure them. Compare to last week's tally. They are off by 1 palm. You write it. Then wonder what that even means. Someone brings you water. Cold. Clean. You don't know their name. You nod. You sip. You record. Gratitude expressed. Water source, unknown. Gesture recorded. At sunset, the workers gather unprompted. A song begins. Low, harmonic, ancient. It spreads like fire. You don't sing. You listen. You carve a line across the bottom of your wax. They remembered something. I witnessed it. Before bed, you stare at your palm. Blistered. Shaking. You whisper to it. Keep holding the stylus. Just a little longer. The sand answers in rustle and hush. You believe it heard you. When silence is no longer enough, you lie down slowly. The mat feels less like comfort and more like memory, as if you've been here longer than you know, as if the fibers remember each breath you've taken. You open your wax tablet one last time that night. You write nothing. You stare at the smooth surface. Let the blankness hold you. Then you press one finger gently into the wax, just enough to leave a dent. Not a letter, not a mark, just a trace of presence. You whisper, "This happened, not for others, for the page, for the sand, for yourself." And somewhere beyond the walls, the pyramid keeps rising, brick by brick, breath by breath. Beneath it all, your words rest. Watching, there are fewer voices now, fewer footsteps, fewer complaints. But not because the work has stopped, because the pyramid is listening. You wake to silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels thick, like fog made of expectation, the kind of quiet that comes before a name is spoken in court or a verdict is handed down by gods. The camp moves slowly. Faces are drawn tighter. Eyes scan the horizon more than the stone. The quarry has gone silent too. No new deliveries in 3 days. You write, material delay, ongoing, emotional response, restrain. A bird returns, just one, small, brown. It perches on the rim of a water basin, dips once, then flies off again. You write, avian activity resumed, possible omen. The foreman doesn't speak all day. He gestures. He stares. He marks the bricks with red chalk, then wipes them clean. You write, supervisor behavior erratic but functional. You're given a new wax tablet. The old one was full. Too full. You didn't want to stop using it, but its edges were cracking, its weight pulling more than your wrist could carry. You hold the new tablet like a stranger's hand. It doesn't yet know your pressure, your hesitation, your rhythm. You write the first line slow and crooked, a record of your discomfort. A group of workers refuse to move a particular stone. They say it sings at night. You ask how. They say it hums under the moon. You touch it, cool, inert, still. You write, Stone 321, subject of superstition, composition normal, inspection inconclusive. A man disappears mid-shift. Not the first time, not even the fifth, but this one left his shoes and his tools. You write, absence recorded, anomalous due to personal item abandonment. The priest says nothing during the evening rites. He burns no incense. He only stares at the pyramid for a long time, then walks away. You write, ritual omission noted. No protest observed. That night, the sand is unusually warm. It holds heat like breath. You lie awake, wondering if the stones exhale. You write nothing. Just keep your fingers on the wax, as if waiting for it to write something back. In the morning, a stone is missing. Not broken, not displaced. Gone. The team leader accuses the night guard. The guard swears it was there at dusk. You write, item disappearance. Stone, 44. Investigation pending. The supply tent has a rip in the back seam. Too clean to be wind. Too precise to be accident. You sew it shut yourself. As you stitch, a beetle crawls across your sandal. You let it pass. You write, security breach minor, no loss. Insect encountered. By midday, the pyramid looks taller. Not because it is, but because you've forgotten how low the original lines were. You trace one with your finger. Your knuckle catches on a groove that wasn't there last week. You call the foreman. He shrugs. Says, it's always been there. You nod. But you know. You write, surface anomaly, groove appearing post, inscription, record saved. A boy draws shapes in the dirt. You recognize one, an eye, with no iris. You ask where he learned it. He says, in the quiet place. You don't ask where that is. You write, symbol observed, source unknown, interview incomplete. 2 women stop working and simply sit in the shade for hours. No one stops them. No one joins them. When you pass, they look at you as if you've interrupted something holy. You write, passive resistance or meditation. Context uncertain. Later, you hear the stone sing. Just for a moment. Not a song. A tone. Deep and dry. Like wind through bone. You freeze. You look around. No one reacts. You write, auditory anomaly experienced. Subjective? You attempt to sleep early, but the stars are loud tonight. They blink and flicker like they're trying to speak. You don't understand. But you write anyway. Starlight behavior notable. No pattern detected. A child stands outside your tent just before dawn. Silent. Still. Watching. You speak, he doesn't answer. You reach for your wax, and he's gone. You write, visitation, witness unconfirmed, psychological stress possible. You fall asleep with your stylus in hand, the wax pressed to your chest. In your dream, you carve words not with a tool, but with your breath, and they do not fade. The next day, you decide not to speak. Not from protest, from curiosity. You wonder how long you can go unnoticed. How long you can be the hand that records without being the voice that responds. You listen instead. To footsteps. To coughs. to the hush of cloth moving over stone. Everything sounds more alive when you are silent. At lunch, someone asks your name. You hesitate, not because you forgot, but because it feels unnecessary. You nod instead. That's enough. You write, identity inquiry deflected, social tether fraying. Then you cross it out. Then you rewrite it. Truth has layers. That evening, someone plays a flute. It's off-key, broken, but still music, still brave. You sit near the sound, eyes closed. You don't write about the music. You just feel it. Before sleep, you mark your tablet with a single line. Nothing descriptive. Just one long horizontal stroke. It feels like a horizon, like the end of something, or maybe the beginning. You whisper, still here, and then you let the darkness close around you. No fear, just breath, just stone, just witness. There are no days off, only days that remember you less. And the longer you stay, the easier it becomes to forget your own name. The sun rises sideways today, or so it seems. Shadows stretch in strange directions. You place a piece of string in the sand to measure. The angle is different from yesterday. You write, solar orientation inconsistent. No disturbance noted. You wake to a voice, not shouting, not calling, just speaking, inside your tent. There's no one there. You check outside. Sand, silence, wind. You don't write anything at first, but hours later your fingers itch and you scribble, unconfirmed vocal presence, psychological echo. You meet a woman at the well. She doesn't fetch water. She only watches the ripples. You ask if she's waiting. She says, it's teaching me to wait. You don't ask what that means. You write, none. Functional observation at well. Philosophy implied. 3 men are caught stealing dried figs. Punishment is light. A half shift cleaning latrines. You note how relieved they are. One even laughs. You write, theft likely premeditated. Penalty perceived as escape. You find a scrap of linen folded under a rock near the bricks. A name stitched into the edge. You do not recognize it. No one does. The thread is blue. No one here wears blue. You hide the linen in your satchel. You write, unregistered name found. Textile origin unknown. Later, the foreman asks if you've seen any strange activity. You almost mention the cloth. You don't. Instead, you say, nothing that would make sense if spoken aloud. He nods. He understands more than he admits. You write, foreman inquiry deflected. Complicity assumed. A scribe from another camp visits. Young, confident, too clean. He brags about his ink supply, his fresh papyrus. You nod politely. He asks, what's the worst thing you've written? You say, the truth that no one reads. He doesn't laugh. You write, external contact lacks depth. Insulated by fresh parchment. That evening, you burn a broken stylus. It catches fast, like it was waiting. You warm your hands by it. You write, retirement of tool ceremonial. Emotional attachment confirmed. The pyramid casts a sharper shadow than usual. You trace its edge with your foot. It feels solid, almost like it could cut. You write, structural aura intensifying. Causation unclear. At midnight, you wake to scratching beneath your mat. You lift it. Nothing. Just your shadow on the wall, moving slightly slower than you. You do not sleep again. But you do write. Temporal drag observed. sensory desynchronization suspected. You try to sketch the pyramid again, but it won't stay still. Every line you draw twists slightly. It tilts when you blink. You abandon the sketch and instead write a list of things that never move. The bones in your feet, the dark spot on the northern wall, the way the old man says yes without his mouth. You ask a child what she dreams about. She says, names, but they're not ours. You don't know what to say. You write, dream content spreading, shared subconscious. A worker goes blind in one eye. No trauma, just a slow fading. The priest says it's the gods marking him. The healer says it's sand and age. The man just says it's quieter now. You write, vision loss unexplained, acceptance total. The supply list from last week reappears with notes in handwriting that isn't yours, but it's on your tablet. You stare at it for hours before adding, authorship uncertain, suggest non-waking transcription. Today's heat does not burn, it hums, like a long-held note. You try to hum along, but your throat tightens. You write, atmospheric resonance noted, affects vocal range. You see two birds circling the pyramid, one larger, darker, one tiny and fast. They do not fight, they just spin, then vanish. You look down to write and forget what color they were. You leave the line blank. Someone paints a symbol onto the worker's shelter. Red ink, circular, but open. When questioned, no one admits to it. The mark remains. You write. Unauthorized sigil. No ownership claimed. Community reaction. Wary. The cook forgets salt. Everyone notices. Everyone eats anyway. No one complains. You write, routine disruption met with quiet compliance. Possible shift in communal threshold. You reread an old tablet. Words you don't remember writing. Ideas you've never had. But the stylus pressure is yours. The rhythm, the slant. You write, autogenic memory distortion. Language exceeds recall. Before sleep, you whisper to your wax, if you remember me, I'll try to remember you. It doesn't respond, but the sand feels warmer when you lie down. In the last hour before dawn, you open your tablet and stare at the blank wax. You do not write. You just breathe onto it. Warm air, condensation, a shimmer of presence. You imagine someone, centuries from now, holding your tablet, not reading, just holding, feeling the groove your thumb left near the edge, wondering who you were, if you mattered, if you finished the story. You smile, because you know you didn't. But you started it, and in places like this, sometimes beginning is braver than ending. Outside, the pyramid waits, still, massive, watching. You nod to it, as you would an old friend you no longer speak to. The bond unspoken, but there, always there. Then you pick up your stylus and write the first word of the day, slowly, clearly, like an offering. By now, the shape of the pyramid lives inside you. You no longer need to look up to feel its weight. You carry it in the curve of your spine, in the squint of your sun-dried eyes, in the shallow way you now breathe when wind moves without warning. There is a new worker today. Or maybe not new, maybe returned. His face is unfamiliar, but his posture is not. He greets no one, carries tools older than your sandals. You write, unverified personnel appearance. No record match. Gear antiquated. A crack appears on the outer wall. It runs like a jagged whisper. The foreman brushes dust into it and says nothing. You press your stylus into your wax harder than usual. Fracture. Visible. Acknowledgement. Denied. Today's date feels wrong. The numbers fit, but the meaning doesn't. You count moons, count meals, count scars on your thumb from writing. The math works, the memory doesn't. You write, temporal dissonance expanding. You overhear two men arguing, but their words don't overlap. One speaks in the present. One answers from something else. A tone you don't recognize. You write. Verbal non-alignment observed. Conversational ghosting. At midday, everyone rests except one. He digs. No instruction, no oversight. Just a steady rhythm of movement. You approach. He says, looking for the lost room. You ask if it's under the pyramid. He says, it's under the forgotten part of you. You don't understand. You write it anyway. Spontaneous excavation. Participant rationale. Metaphysical. You find a feather in your water. Not floating. Submerged. Bent. Pale blue. Like sky before storm. You write. Foreign object contamination. Possible message. When you bring it to the priest, he refuses to touch it. Says, not all wings are meant for air. Then he walks into the heat and disappears behind the dust. You hold the feather until it crumbles in your palm. You keep its dust on your fingers. You touch your wax. The lines you carve are finer than before, as if your hand learned another language while you weren't looking. A woman paints a line of symbols on her tent each morning. They wash away each night. She never complains. You ask her why. She says, it's not about keeping them. It's about knowing I still remember how. You write, symbolic ritual persistence, intent, preservation of memory. You dream of bricks falling upward, not floating, falling, with force, into the sky. Each impact echoes like a drumbeat in reverse. You wake breathless. You write, dream inversion recorded, possible subconscious resistance. Someone leaves a bundle of herbs on your mat. No note. No footprint. The scent is sharp and familiar. You remember your mother boiling them for illness. You write, unsolicited offering, possible, protective gesture. You feel watched, not by people, not even the pyramid, but by the quiet, as if stillness itself had grown eyes. You write, perceptual surveillance, source abstract, comfort level, declining. The cook tries a new dish. Burnt grain and honey. No one likes it. Everyone finishes anyway. Someone says, new things deserve a fair chance. You write, cultural openness detected in consumption behavior. Your stylus breaks in the middle of a sentence. Not from pressure, from fatigue. You feel it snap through your fingertips like a sigh. You finish the sentence with your nail. You write, tool failure mid-script, replacement sourced, writing continuity preserved manually. The pyramid appears smaller today, not in size, in attitude, as if tired of being stared at. You try not to look, but it's like trying not to breathe. You write, monumental shift sensed, respect recalibrated. A child shows you a rock shaped like a heart. You say it's beautiful. He says, it's broken though. You say, maybe that's why it fits the hand so well. You write, emotional insight expressed through object metaphor. At sunset, no one speaks, not in silence, but in reverence. You realize they're listening. You don't know to what. You close your eyes and try to hear it too. That night, a single drum beat echoes from the hills. No one reacts, as if it's always been there. You consider asking, but some answers shrink when spoken. You write, auditory phenomenon normalized without origin. You reread today's records. They read you back, or so it feels. You mark the edge of the wax with a dot. No purpose, just presence. You write, dot added. Identity unclear, possibly mine. You try to count how many people you've known here. The names don't line up with the faces. Some are shadows, some are voices, some are the absence of either. You stop counting. You write, community map unstable, memory merge increasing. You dream of walking into the pyramid, not outside it, inside, down a long hall, walls made of your wax, every line you've carved glowing faintly, a hallway made of your words. You don't reach the end. You wake up. You open your tablet. You write nothing, but you press your thumb deep into the corner, like sealing a letter no one will open. Then you close the wax, not as an end, just a breath between thoughts. Outside, the stars are less afraid. They blink at you like old companions. You blink back, and begin again tomorrow. Somewhere between sand and shadow, you've stopped asking what day it is. The pyramid rises. The bricks shift, and your wax remembers more than you do. A young girl appears at the edge of camp. Dust on her ankles. Eyes like she's been crying, but not recently. She says nothing. She just watches. You offer her water. She doesn't drink it. Just places her hand on the cup, then walks away. You write, unidentified child presence. Contact nonverbal, interaction symbolic. The quarry reopens, but the stone feels off. Softer in color, warmer to touch. One worker calls it flesh stone. Another refuses to work with it. You watch the first brick laid. It sinks deeper than it should. You write, material variation detected. Resistance level unknown. Someone paints eyes on the scaffolding poles. Hundreds of eyes. All open. All watching downward. No one claims them. By dusk, many are smudged by hands or sand, but not erased. You write, symbolic proliferation, ocular motif. Community response, passive. A voice speaks during the morning rites, but the priest is silent. The voice comes from behind the altar. It says one word, continue. No one reacts, as if it's just part of the wind. You write, unassigned vocal command. Collective normalization observed. The moon does not rise that night, or if it does, it hides. The stars seem nervous. You wrap your cloak tighter and sit beside your unlit fire. You do not write. You listen. Nothing comes, and yet everything feels said. Your hands cramp more now. The stylus slips more often. You start carving slower, with care. Less about what's written, more about how it's shaped. You write, motor degradation minor, aesthetic precision increasing. The foreman leaves a note on your satchel. One word, remember. You stare at it for an hour. Then flip your wax to a fresh side and write, command received, memory function re-engaged, context pending. You follow the wind that afternoon. It carries ash, though no fires burn. It leads you behind the water tent, where you find a pile of stones that were never recorded. Smooth, marked with lines not made by tools. You write, artifact anomaly, origin unlisted, symbols non-local. That night you dream of breathing through stone, not suffocating merging. Your chest expands with weight, not air. You wake with your heart racing. You check your chest for cracks. None. But your fingers smell of dust. You hear humming near the scaffold. Soft, low, tuneless. When you investigate, there's no one there. But you find a bird's skull tucked between two bricks. It's clean, polished. You write, auditory anomaly localized. Avian remains discovered. Intent unknown. The boy who lost his voice returns. He mouths something to you, but no sound comes. You give him a stylus. He scratches one word into the dirt. Still, you write, communication attempt silent, linguistic content minimal, emotional weight high. The cook is gone. No trace, no footprints. Only his apron tied to the handle of a water jar. Inside the jar, a single-date fruit. You write, personnel absence unexplained, symbolic offering noted. You receive an old tablet, one you never wrote, but the wax bears your script. It lists people you've never met, events you've never seen, yet the pressure matches your hand. You stare for hours. Then you write, authorship crisis, timeline divergence, suspected. A storm comes, but brings no rain, only sound. The sky growls for hours, shaking tents and hearts. The sand doesn't move, but your teeth ache from the vibration. You write, meteorological event, sonic only, structural resonance extreme. The feather returns. Not in your tent inside your tablet, embedded in wax. Impossible. You remove it gently. It crumbles again. You don't write this time. You just press the powder into your palm. Hold it. Breathe with it. Your shadow begins to linger. Not delay linger. It stays in places a second too long. You wave at it. It waves back, but slightly out of rhythm. You write, photonic echo increasing, self-recognition challenged. You forget the word for brick. It hovers just out of reach, like a bird on a wire. You substitute form stone in your notes. Later, someone uses it in speech. You write, lexical mutation spreading, shared vocabulary evolution in progress. You dream of the girl again. She sits at the base of the pyramid, feet in the dust, whispering to it. You approach, and she looks up and says, it was already written. You wake and whisper, I know. That night, the stars form a pattern you recognize not from the sky, but from your earliest notes. Symbols you etched in your first week, now glowing above your head. You write, celestial mimicry of personal record. Coincidence improbable. You dig through your earliest tablets. Many are unreadable. Not because they're damaged, because they feel like lies now. You write, initial records reevaluated, context lost or transformed. Your new tablet refuses to take wax evenly. The surface puckers slightly where your thoughts are uncertain. You adjust your pressure. It smooths. You write, medium responsive to cognition variance. Potential feedback loop forming. You sit outside your tent. You speak your name aloud. Then again. Then softer. It sounds foreign by the third time. You stop. You write, nominal dissociation occurring. Identity drift acceptable. And then, without plan or need, you begin to sing. A slow, broken tone. Not yours, but familiar. It fills the night like smoke. You do not stop until the sun reaches the edge of the world again. The pyramid no longer feels above you. It feels beside you, as if it's walking, slowly, just out of view, matching your pace breath for breath. You no longer wonder when it will be finished. You wonder if it remembers when it began. Today you wake before the sun, but not from sleep, from stillness. You were not dreaming. You were paused. Your wax tablet is open. A word is scratched across the center. Before, you didn't write it. You write, non-consensual entry logged, handwriting partially matched, temporal breach suspected. The woman with the symbols on her tent now draws them in the dust. They last only minutes before wind takes them, but she smiles. You ask what they mean. She says, memory isn't about keeping. It's about returning. You write, transitory glyph practice continues. Purpose increasingly poetic. A cat appears. Thin, pale, with one eye. It sits outside the supply tent and does not move all day. No one feeds it. No one touches it. At sunset, it vanishes. You write, feline manifestation static. Social response, passive observation. Departure unrecorded. 2 workers collapse. Not from heat, from quiet. Their pulse is normal. Their eyes closed. They wake at dusk and claim no memory of rest. You write, shared fugue state observed. No prior illness. Recovery immediate. The priest begins humming again. This time, it's a melody others recognize. Not from here, from childhoods left behind. One by one, people begin to hum along. No one speaks. You don't hum. You write, shared song event triggered. Cultural depth re-emerging. You receive a parcel wrapped in cloth. Inside, an old stylus worn to the nub. Yours? It feels like yours. A scrap of wax carries 3 symbols. One is your mark, the other's unknown. You write, returned tool with hybrid markings, identity resonance high. You forget the word for sun. You point at it, describe it, even draw it, but no word comes. A boy suggests a new one, Nkhur. You nod. You write, lexical replacement initiated. Communal language drift accelerating. In a dream, you sit inside the pyramid, but it's hollow. The walls made of voice, thousands of whispers layered into stone. Each line you've ever recorded echoes back to you, reversed. You wake with your fingers, tracing the shape of sound. The stars shift, not fall, shift. Their positions move slightly, as though they lean closer. You count them, one more than usual, brighter. You write, celestial displacement confirmed, new presence unclassified. A worker begins carving a spiral into unused bricks. Quietly, thoughtfully. When asked why, he says, it gives them direction. No one stops him. By evening, 6 bricks bear the mark. You write, personalized symbols emerging. Intent constructive, not decorative. You find a stone that hums. Not loudly, only when held. You press it to your forehead, and the hum fades. You press it to your chest, and the hum returns. You write, resonant object discovered. Physiological response, location, specific. A new set of tools arrives. They are heavier, smoother, and etched with unfamiliar glyphs. The foreman shrugs. They just came. You distribute them. Everyone accepts them without question. You write, tool origin undocumented, acceptance automatic. Resistance? None. A child repeats your name 3 times, then stops and says, "You're different now." You ask how. He says, "You hear softer." You don't reply. You write, "Perceptual adjustment observed externally. Auditory, empathy, suspected. The pyramid seems taller today, though no levels were added." You pace its base again. Same measurement, different sensation. You write, "Spatial perception stretch. Monument psychology influencing scale sense." A woman begins weaving rope out of shredded papyrus. She knots it methodically, humming in a rhythm that matches your breath. You ask why. She says, "Because memory must be tied to something." You write, "Manual ritual tethering memory to motion." You begin to dream in symbols instead of voices. They pulse behind your eyes as you sleep. In the morning, your wax matches the shapes, even though you swear you didn't touch it. You write, "Symbolic transfer during unconscious state." Stylus movement. Disputed. The wind carries a smell like fire, but there's none. It smells like fire used to smell. A memory smell. You inhale deeply. You write, "Olfactory memory phantom detected. No external trigger. A man carves your name into the bricks without asking." You ask him why. He says, "Because I don't want to forget that you listened." You do not stop him. You write, "Name replication by other. Reason, observed presence." That night, your dreams no longer feel like dreams. They feel like old stories passed between breaths. You see your own hand reaching out, but older, more worn, and holding a stylus that glows faintly. You trace lines in the air before you wake. When you open your eyes, the wax bears those same lines. You run your fingers over them. They're real. They're soft. They're yours. You step outside into the silence. The stars lean closer than ever, and for the first time, you feel them watching not just the pyramid, but you. You write, "Observation from above confirmed. Subject, scribal presence." You sit by your fireless pit. The wind surrounds you but does not touch. You whisper, "I remember." You don't know what. You don't need to. You write, "Recognition without content. Memory as form." The mornings begin to blur. Not because they are the same, but because they're no longer defined by sun or bell or hunger. They begin inside your breath now. You wake into the story, not from it. The sand shifts unnaturally today. It flows uphill for a moment, then settles. No wind, no quake, just reversal. Someone laughs nervously. No one speaks of it again. You write, "Granular anomaly observed. Directional gravity flicker. Denial present." A new phrase spreads through camp. The pyramid hears. At first a joke, then quieter, then reverent. You hear it whispered at meals, muttered during work, even sighed before sleep. You write, "Phrase adoption widespread. Semiotic function, protective or devotional." You find your own handwriting on another scribe's tablet. An entry you don't remember writing. It details a dream you've never had, but that feels familiar now that you've read it. You write, "Cross, script contamination. Memory, echo, potential confirmed." A fire starts without flame. A corner of the storage tent glows red, but no heat radiates. The air ripples like water. Workers step back slowly. The priest steps forward and chants. It fades. You write, "Thermal distortion localized. Ritual response effective. The night brings fog. Unusual in this place. Thick, cold, and full of silhouettes that don't match anyone here. You stand at the edge of your tent and count them. 7. One lingers longer than the others. You write. Fog. Body manifestations observed. Recognition. Negative. Someone replaces your wax with a darker batch, nearly black, with a reflective sheen. It resists the stylus at first, then absorbs it fully. Writing on it feels like pushing into memory itself. You write. Medium change, without notice. Tactile depth increased. The pyramid's shadow no longer aligns with the sun. You check it 3 times, mark it in your journal, confirm with others. Some say it never did. Others say it always has. You write, celestial discrepancy persistent, collective dissonance rising. A woman speaks a word no one recognizes. Everyone stops, even the wind. She doesn't repeat it. You write, linguistic intrusion, unidentified term, auditory weight, excessive. In a dream, the pyramid is upside down, its point buried in the sand and its base floating in the stars. You stand on it and see everyone below, walking in reverse. You write, inversion dream recurring, perspective dislodged, gravity relational. A stranger appears in the dining line. No one questions him. He takes a bowl, sits, and eats. You look again, and he's gone. His bowl remains. It contains dust instead of food. You write, entity apparition temporary. Physical imprint present. Someone draws a doorway on the side of the pyramid using water and ash. It fades after an hour, but birds begin to land there. Always at that spot, even when nothing is visible. You write, symbolic architecture influencing avian behavior. You forget what your name means. You remember its sound, the rhythm of it in others' mouths, but not the story behind it. You write, nominal disconnection intensifying, identity shift expanding. A child writes in your wax while you sleep, their hand too small for clarity, yet the message is legible. Not everything that builds is built. You wake up with your hand over the words. You write, scribal infiltration dreamlike, semantic complexity high. The pyramid hums. Not a sound, exactly. More like a vibration in your teeth, your chest, your thoughts. It grows stronger when people lie. You test it. You whisper a falsehood. The hum sharpens. You write, monument resonance reactive to truth variance. At dusk, 3 torches flicker without flame. They glow, cold and blue. No one touches them. No one moves them. By morning, they're gone. You write, unlit light observed. Heat signature negative, vanishing unrecorded. You see your own reflection in water, but it turns its head before you do. You blink. So does it. But you're no longer certain who's leading. You write, reflected autonomy emerging. Mirror, time disturbance possible. The priest writes something in your tablet. A shape, not a word. Circular, but broken, like a moon missing a piece. He says, this is where it all starts. Then walks away. You write, priestly inscription cryptic. Origin implication noted. That night, you look up at the stars and see the same broken circle above you. You don't write. You place your hand over your heart and close your eyes. Then slowly you begin again. The next morning, a trench appears near the pyramid, not dug, revealed. as if sand had been peeled away overnight. At the bottom lies a single brick, larger than any laid before, inscribed with your mark. You never carved it. You write, "Archaeological inversion. Pre-inscribed identity detected." The workers move slower now, not from fatigue, but reverence, as if afraid each step might change something permanent. You do too. You write, "Behavioral modulation spreading. Movement, echoes, ritual." You receive a message on a scrap of palm fiber. It reads, "You are writing what has already been read." There's no signature, but the script matches yours perfectly. You write, "Temporal recursion evidence mounting." You feel lighter, not in body, but in name. As if your role no longer anchors you, it floats above, shadowing, narrating. You touch your wax and feel it throb beneath your fingertip. You write, "Scribal self-dislocation continuing. Consciousness, migration observed." As the sun rises, you do not rise with it. You remain still. The pyramid looms behind your breath. It is not finished. It will never be. But you write anyway, because it dreams and it needs someone to remember. The pyramid no longer rises, not because it is finished, but because it waits. For what? You don't know, but the silence is shaped like a question, and your stylus trembles before it touches the wax. You wake to find your tablet open again. The wax is warm, soft, and across it, a list of names. None you remember, none spoken aloud here, but each carries weight, as if they echo. You write, "Name registry emergence, source unidentified. Emotional charge detected." The workers gather at the base, but do not climb. They kneel. One begins to chant, not the priest, a mason. The chant is wordless, but the rhythm carries meaning, reverence, sorrow, expectation. You write, "Spontaneous ritual formation, role inversion observed." The sun hangs longer than it should. Not brighter, just reluctant, like it doesn't want to leave. Shadows stretch too far. You stand in your own and cannot see your feet. You write, "Solar persistence anomaly, horizon delay measurable." A child drops a toy, a carved wooden animal, into the sand. When they reach down, it's gone. Not buried, gone. The child whispers, "It wanted to go home." You write, "Object vanishing reported, subject perception, calm, attribution, metaphysical." Your wax begins to resist repetition. If you try to rewrite something, the stylus slips. If you try to quote someone, the letters rearrange. You write, "Medium adapting, redundancy rejection increasing, originality demanded." You see the foreman cry, not in grief in awe. He kneels before a stone with a handprint pressed into it. He says, "That's mine, from before. He wasn't here then." You write, "Temporal imprint recovery. Worker memory overlap detected." At night, someone laughs in their sleep. Loud, deep, and old. You investigate. It wasn't anyone in camp. You check the perimeter. No footprints. Just laughter echoing into stillness. You write, "Auditory, presence external. Emotional tone, joy. Source, non-corporeal." The pyramid hums again, but this time, it's not in your chest. It's beneath your feet. Like a drum beat, a heartbeat. And you realize it's not dreaming anymore. It's waking. You write, "Monument activation progressing. Seismic rhythm aligns with heartbeat. The priest begins to dig not at the build site, but beyond it, where nothing stands. You ask him why. He says, because that's where it ends. You write, clerical excavation unauthorized. Terminus theory proposed. You try to read your earliest notes. They blur. Not from age, from rejection. The wax distorts. Lines twisting away from your gaze. You write, document obsolescence enforced. Self, editing artifact confirmed. The child who lost the toy smiles at you today. She says, thank you for not stopping it. You don't understand. But your hands tremble when you pick up the stylus. You write, acknowledgement from minor. Possible precognition or spiritual link. Someone draws the pyramid in the sand, inverted, burning, and surrounded by birds. Then they erase it. You ask why. They say, it already happened. You write, symbolic prophecy enacted. Temporal layering indicated. You feel watched, not by the sky, not by the others, but by the bricks. They seem aware, positioned, aligned not just for strength, but for meaning. You write, architectural intention shifting, presence within structure inferred. A worker recites your records aloud, not reading reciting, word for word, including entries never spoken aloud. He says, they come to me in sleep. You write, memory transfer confirmed, scribal broadcast suspected. At night, you press your ear to the sand. Beneath it, whispering, thousands of voices. Not speech, just the idea of speech. You write, subterranean cognitive resonance active. Interpretation pending. That morning, a brick is laid with no hands. Everyone watches as it hovers for a moment, then settles into place. No one speaks. You write, autonomous placement event, gravitational rules bypassed. The child brings you a new wax tablet blank, warm, slightly pulsing. She says, this one listens. You hold it and feel a rhythm like breath. You write, organic medium received. Sentience, probable. Your own voice echoes before you speak. A delay, a doubling. You speak a question, and your echo answers, slightly different words. You write, phonic loop anomaly. Pre-verbal reflection active. You dream of sand folding like paper. It forms figures. A man, a child, a jackal, a pyramid. The pyramid eats the others, then folds itself into a scarab. You wake with sand in your mouth. You write, symbolic metamorphosis observed. Dreamcraft interfacing with reality. The stars pulse in threes now. Blink, pause, blink, blink. Someone begins tapping that pattern on bricks. Soon, others follow. You don't. You write, cosmic signal received. Rhythmic translation, communal. The priest places a stone on your satchel. It's not from here. Too smooth. Too cold. It bears no mark, but smells like honey. He says, it's yours. You write, foreign artifact delivered. Emotional imprint, rich. You try to write the final line of your tablet. The wax splits. Not crack splits, like skin. A thin red line runs down the middle. It closes a moment later. You write, closure resistance enacted. Tablet alive. And that night, for the first time, you do not write. You sit. You breathe. You remember. and still the wax records. You are not the only one recording anymore. The pyramid has begun its own archive. Not in wax, not in stone, but in moments. In choices. In how you hesitate before writing. It watches that most of all. You wake to no birds, no voices, no tools striking stone, only breath. Collective, shared, patient. It feels like waiting, but for what? You write, synchronous silence event, anticipation collective, unknown trigger. The wax is gone, not stolen, replaced. Now it's sand-filled, yet retains every stroke. You drag the stylus across, expecting it to crumble. Instead, it glows faintly as the line forms. You write. Writing surface transmuted. Hybrid material. Particulate memory. A mason drops his chisel. It lands perfectly upright. He laughs. So does the tool. It rings with joy. You write, tool behavior anomalous. Emotional resonance mimicked. Sentience theory. Growing. You find your own symbol etched high on the pyramid, a spot no one can reach. When you touch it, your hand warms. You write, symbolic projection occurred. Height impossible. Thermal feedback received. The priest says nothing today. He carries a stone in silence and lays it at your feet. It bears an indentation shaped like your ear. He says, it listens better this way. You write, personal stone interface gifted. Auditory focus suspected. The night sky shifts slightly again. Not the stars, the blackness between them. It pulses, not light, but presence. You write, dark space activity noted. Awareness expanding from void. Workers begin to call each other by new names none agreed upon, none repeated twice. You try to catalog them, but the wax smears each attempt. You write, naming instability expanding. Identity decentralization active. You dream in second person now. Someone speaks, not to you, but as you. The voice is yours, but wiser, slower. You wake whispering things you never knew you knew. You write, dream perspective shifted. Voice of pyramid internalized. The builders begin humming again, but now in harmony. No melody, no origin, just tuning. It resonates with the pyramid's core, and the stones seem to lighten in their hands. You write, auditory unity forming. Harmonic labor feedback loop detected. Your reflection in the water blinks twice when you blink once. Then it smiles before you do. You back away. You write, reflection independence increasing. Identity lag surpassed. One worker digs beneath their own sleeping mat and pulls up a golden amulet they've never seen. It fits perfectly in their palm. They hand it to you, wordless. You write, artifact emergence, spontaneous. Ownership ambiguous. Emotional imprint high. You forget how to write your name. The letters refuse to form. You write a glyph instead, one that appears nowhere else. But it feels right. You write, nominal erasure replaced by sigil. Intuitive language development underway. During the midday break, no one moves. Not from fatigue, but necessity. It's as if the pyramid requires stillness. A full hour passes with no sound, no gesture. Then work resumes. You write, enforced pause cycle detected. Collective entrainment possible. The sand begins forming patterns without wind. Spirals, eyes, footsteps. They vanish when stepped on, but reappear by nightfall, always in the same place. You write, environmental scripting, initiated, message format, symbolic groundwork. The stars begin pulsing in sequence with your breath. You test it, hold your lungs, change your rhythm. The sky follows. You write, astral synchronization confirmed, observer effect exponential. You find a line etched into the stone base. I wrote you before you were born. No one admits carving it, but it's in your hand. You write, prenatal authorship paradox, personal authorship unconfirmed. You attempt to sleep, but the dreams are too loud. They speak in overlapping voices, some kind, some desperate, all familiar. You write, dream, layer density increased, auditory overload nearing. At dawn, everyone looks to you, not for orders, for confirmation. You nod, not knowing why. They begin a new chamber, one never drawn, never planned, but everyone understands. You write, collective vision enacted, memory construction precedes instruction. You no longer know where the pyramid ends and the sky begins, or where you begin. You only know you are necessary, not important, just needed. You write, identity minimized, purpose, scribal continuity, and as the sun rises, the wax hums beneath your hand. It hums your name, the one you no longer remember, and the one you haven't yet earned. You no longer wake. You emerge. Sleep was the curtain. Now the pyramid lifts it. What remains is not a dream, not memory, but recording in its purest form. You are inside the archive, and the archive is inside you. There is no sun today, only light, not from above, but from the stones themselves. It is not warm, not cold, just present. You write, solar replacement detected, source internal, emotional impact, reverent calm. The workers no longer use tools. They hum and lift, place and release. Stone moves as if guided by song. No commands, no correction, only harmony. You write, labor, song integration total, architectural cooperation reached. Your wax tablet now writes before you touch it. Ideas appear as you breathe them. You only read. You write, autonomous transcription confirmed, scribe, function, witness, not creator. A bird lands beside the base, not from here. White, silent, too still. It stares at you until you finish writing. Then it blinks once and dissolves. You write, messenger entity appeared, dispersed upon acknowledgement. A chamber is open today, not one built, but discovered. Beneath the base. It was never dug. It was always there. You descend. You write, pre-existing void accessed. Time, origin, unmeasurable. Inside, walls lined with mirrors, but no reflections. Instead, each shows a different version of you. Younger, older, lost, laughing. You write, multiversal echo room encountered. Identity plurality confirmed. The priest kneels beside you, lays down his robe, and disappears. Not dies, not vanishes. He becomes a name on your wax, one you do not write. You write, clerical ascension witnessed, semantic rebirth logged. You realize the pyramid was never built for the dead. It is not a tomb. It is a question, and you are its answer in progress. You write, function reclassification, epistemic structure, living question interface. You touch a stone in the final chamber. It opens like a flower, not breaking, just unfolding. Inside is a perfect sphere, not gold, not glass, just possibility. You write, seed, stone discovered, potentiality encoded, awaiting activation. The workers no longer eat. They no longer sleep. And yet they grow stronger. You check their breath. It hums in sync with the pyramid. You write, metabolic reliance shifted, nutritional rhythm replaced with resonance. You try to leave the site once. Just walk toward the desert. Your steps slow. Your thoughts slow. You turn back, and only then do they return. You write, field border established. Cognitive withdrawal response enforced. A mirror forms on the surface of the central stone. Not a reflection, an opening. Through it, you see not a place, but a moment, your own birth. From above, you write, chrono, visual portal triggered, personal origin displayed. The child returns. Older now. She says, it told me to thank you. You ask who. She only smiles. You write, message via avatar confirmed. Identity of sender, pyramid, or derivative. You begin to hum involuntarily. The same three-note cadence you once heard from the stars. Now it echoes back from within the walls. You write, harmonic loop stabilized. Pyramid. Song complete. You no longer use the stylus. You speak, and the wax responds. No, not wax memory. You write, interface complete. Speech, recording convergence reached. The final chamber disappears. Not collapses. Not erased. Just unmade. Everyone understands. No one mourns. You write, completion not destruction. Purpose absorbed. You are asked one question. Silently, internally, and you answer. Not in words, but in everything you have seen, written, witnessed. The pyramid glows once, and rests. You write, final query received. Response encoded in existence. The workers walk away. The child waves. The sky forgets how to be black. You remain. You were never a builder. Never a priest. Not even a man. You were the memory. You write, role transcended. Identity, the record. And then nothing. And in that nothing, everything. You write. You write. You write.